Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit about phrasal verbs. However, before we can begin to talk about phrasal verbs, we need to make sure that we're clear on what verbs are. Verbs are action words. Can you think of any good examples? Do, make, and take are three good examples of verbs. Go, speak, and walk are three more good examples. Alright, now that we've talked about verbs, let's discuss prepositions. What's a preposition? Prepositions are linking words. Can you think of any good examples of prepositions? You might have thought of words such as in, on, or at. These are three very common prepositions. These linking words will often answer the question of where or when. So, for example, words such as in, on, and at can often answer the question where or when. So, for instance, if someone asked you, "Where were you yesterday?" you might say, "In class." Another question might be, "When is our quiz?" You could say, "On Tuesday." See if you can think of any good examples of questions or a question that would be answered with the preposition at. Okay, my example for that question would be, when does class start? And of course the answer for this could be at 9 o'clock. So, just to recap, prepositions are linking words, and they'll often link an idea with a content word, in class, on Tuesday, and at 9 o'clock. Some other good examples of prepositions, ones that you might have said earlier during this presentation, are words such as up, down, out, off, and on. And there are many more. The main reason that we're talking about prepositions is because we're going to be using them, and they're essential in forming phrasal verbs, specifically prepositions being used as particles. Let me show you what I mean. Let's take a verb, such as go, and let's combine it with a word up, which is usually a preposition when it stands alone. When we do this, we get go up, which is a phrasal verb. Have you ever heard the phrasal verb go up? Do you know what it means? Take a guess. It means increase. So hopefully you said increase. Go up, increase. Now try using this phrasal verb. So if go up means increase, try to fill in the blank here. The temperature in the summer. Hopefully you said goes up. Now, you might have said go up, and if you did, that's okay. At least you understand the meaning, but make sure that you don't forget the all-important third person S. Alright, phrasal verb construction refers to how we form phrasal verbs, and I think that you probably already know how to form phrasal verbs based on what we've seen in this presentation. So take a second and see if you could explain how to form phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are formed by taking a verb and adding a particle. And this could be with one particle or two particles. And just to review, what are particles? Particles are prepositions, but they're being used for a different purpose. A good example is the word on. What do I mean by purpose? Well, let's look at this example. If you were to say the quiz was on Tuesday, the purpose of on is very different here versus saying get on the bus. So look at how the preposition here is being used differently. In this case, would you call on a preposition? Hopefully you said no, and neither would I. In this case, get on is our phrasal verb. We've got a verb, we've got a particle, and combining them, it changes the meaning. So here, get on would mean essentially bored. Also, as a side note, the word phrasal is actually an adjective. You're probably familiar with the word phrase, and this is a noun. All we're doing here is changing phrase to phrasal in order to describe our noun, which is verb, so phrasal verb, just as a side note. Phrasal verbs are often also called two-word verbs or three-word verbs. Here are 3 examples of two-word verbs because, of course, they consist of 2 words. The third phrasal verb here, make up, is one that we have not covered yet. And it's important to note that when I refer to make up, I'm talking about a phrasal verb because it's 2 words, and I'm not talking about the cosmetic, which would be 1 word. And as another side note, make up means to invent or create. So we're not talking about the cosmetic, but this one would refer to invent or create. For example, children often make up stories to avoid getting in trouble. So these are the 3 examples of phrasal verbs that we've covered so far. And notice that they're all 2-word verbs. Let's take a look at one 3-word verb. Come up with is a good example of a 3-word verb. You have your verb, a particle, and a second particle. Come up with essentially means create or produce. I love this phrasal verb, come up with, because it's so useful. Imagine you're in class and you have to write an essay, or you have to come up with a title for your essay. If you were to say, I can't produce a title, it would sound very unnatural and strange. However, if you said, I can't come up with a title, I can't come up with a topic, it would sound very natural and it fits perfectly here. Come up with is a great phrasal verb. So that wraps up this presentation on phrasal verbs. At this point, you should know what phrasal verbs are, and you should know how to form them.